Hello, this is Jay, and the purpose of this video is to briefly introduce you to the ABC project, whose purpose is to name things as simply as possible to facilitate learning and self-education and communication among us Wakanda developers. And so we're looking at, of course, the data store model, and I have a data store class named Class A, which is fairly intuitive. And its attributes are str, which is of type string, num for number, calc for a calculated attribute. If I highlight that, you can see there is a script file over here associated with it. And the fanciest thing we have right here is a relation attribute. And so it's a one-to-many relationship. One Class A to many Class B entities. And the name of that is B collection, or B call, C-O-L-L. And so I wanted to try and keep the names short so they'll be easy to work with over time, yet intuitive enough that we know what they are. And kind of show you what I'm doing right now. I'm going through and restudying the programming Wakanda server section of the documentation, and so we have a file in our project. By the way, the project name is ABC lowercase and the solution file is uppercase, so there's a distinction between the two. And there is just a brief readme in the project file there, and right under that we have underscore program Wakanda server, and not all the files in here work, so they're not all complete, and I'm not even sure if all the code in them is correct. I'm capturing ideas in here as I go. But I'll give you an idea of kind of what the structure is, and also invite you to work on this yourself and add anything you want to it and come up with any suggestions that you have. So here I have a file, a JavaScript file called enumerate-data-classes.js. And that is here under the underscore program Wakanda server directory. And the file has a brief introduction up at the top here that explains it, and then these asterisks demarcate the comment sections. And so these are all different ways that we can create an array of class names. And here's the simplest way is just to reference the data store object itself and call the method object.keys, which is a JavaScript method on that. So there are multiple ways to do the same thing, and so what we can do is just pick a method and copy it, and replace here this comment. And I just made the comment that we're trying to keep the global scope clean, which is why we're running this inside of a function. If you guys have any different ideas about that, please let me know. And we'll just run this. We'll save the file and we'll run it. And we see that it does indeed return an array of our class names. So that's a brief example. If you have things that you want to do in your own studies and document things using the ABC project, there is a template file called template.js in the same directory, and it just basically mirrors the style that I had, which is you can introduce what you're doing at the top and then do the different variations in between the multi-line comments here. So that's pretty much it. I'm just looking here to see if there's anything. The stuff in populate data is half-baked. I'll just warn you about that. Here's like a new entity. So we have all these different ways to create a new entity. And oh, this is good that I opened up this file, because so here's all these different ways that we can create an entity. One of the things that I want to be able to do is go in and populate the data of the data store class in a standardized way, so that we know exactly what data is in there, and that we can actually run tests against that data to say, hey, we got all of the data back that we should have gotten with that particular query. So I'm still playing around with these ideas, but the core, the buzzword that I'm using is tracer datums. I want each field in the database to tell me whether or not it's correct, that the datum itself should say, hey, I'm correct, and I should be able to add that data up either mathematically or whatever method and say, okay, this matches with what was expected to be in there. So that's just an interesting thing. And then coming back to the model, there's just lots of stuff that we can do. Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D. And then between different classes, we can do different types of patterns. We can do inheritance. We can do parent-child relationships. We can do all the stuff that's in the documentation, and then we can refer to these patterns. Maybe we can nickname these patterns after the letter names, like the the AB relation, one-to-many relation, or whatever. But I guess the possibilities are really limitless. But we have to get started somewhere. And for me, is right when I got into Wakanda, being new to databases and all that stuff in general, it was really cool to get in and see like the specific examples of, hey, employees and companies and all that other stuff. But at some level, I just really wanted to know, like, well, what is it? And so I'm planning on doing some tutorial videos where I'll go in and just explain in the simplest possible terms, what this is, what a single data store class is, and really just build up a fundamental base of knowledge using these very simple elements and element names. So I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to the ABC project, and I hope you'll enjoy working with it and coming up with your own variations and ideas and suggestions. Thanks a bunch, and have a great day.